Alright, let's take a moment to be honest. This tale is intricate, a narrative I never imagined I would share with anyone, much less a multitude of strangers online. Yet here I find myself compelled to express what weighs on my mind. Thus we embark on this journey. At 47, divorced with one child, I find myself in a cycle that feels all too familiar, akin to a record that has lost its spark and keeps playing the same notes over and over. As a nurse working the night shift, I find myself in a realm where the extraordinary becomes routine, where the sights and experiences challenge my understanding of reality, and eventually, one learns to adapt to the surreal nature of it all. One becomes accustomed to the peculiar hours, the relentless fatigue, and the tales that could send shivers down one's spine. Consequently, my existence beyond the confines of work is, in essence, nearly absent. Each day, I embark on the journey to work, return to the sanctuary of home, attempt to find rest, and then repeat this cycle 5 nights a week. This routine has woven itself into the very fabric of my existence. Before we delve deeper into this narrative, ensure you press that subscribe button and activate notifications, so you won't miss any astonishing revelations about secrets and tales of betrayal. Believe me, you won't want to overlook what lies ahead. Yet, there exists a singular thread that prevents me from utterly unraveling. Engaging in the sport of bowling. Honestly, I understand it may come off as somewhat, shall we say, reminiscent of something your grandmother might do, but I truly adore it. It serves as my refuge. Last year I ventured into a league, initially seeking a pastime, only to uncover that I possess a surprising talent for it. Indeed, I found myself qualified for a tournament, a genuine, authentic tournament located 3 hours from here. My excitement was palpable. After months of dedicated practice, it felt as though a fragment of my former life, the one I had before the divorce, was slowly re-emerging. Yet, the stark truth of my circumstances crashed down upon me with overwhelming force. Who was going to look after my son? He is, shall we say, a typical teenager marked by a certain rebellious streak. He's certainly not the sort of child you'd feel comfortable leaving unsupervised for an entire weekend. The last occasion I engaged in that endeavor, I returned home to discover that one of his friends had chosen to assess the structural integrity of my garage using his truck. It lacked beauty. I considered the situation and concluded that his father would be the one to take him. Yet, as it often happens, destiny, or perhaps the whims of Murphy's Law, had different intentions in store. Assigned to guard duty that weekend. Isn't it just the ideal moment? Seems I find myself at an impasse. This tournament is something I've dedicated myself to, and I cannot bear the thought of leaving my son unattended at home. Thus, I took the course of action that any diligent, albeit somewhat weary, mother might choose. I gathered our belongings and set off for the hotel. An indoor pool graced the space. As I emerged from the embrace of sleep, I stretched my limbs and made my way to rouse my son from his slumber. He lay in a deep slumber, nestled beneath the warm embrace of the blankets. I nudged him softly, and he let out a low groan before turning onto his side. I mentioned that I was heading out for breakfast and inquired if he would like to join me. He uttered a few words about pancakes, and in that moment I realized he was indeed awake. We descended to the hotel restaurant, a quintessential establishment featuring the familiar spread of a hotel breakfast buffet: eggs with a rubbery texture, bacon that's perfectly crispy, and those tiny muffins that always seem to lack moisture. A brief inquiry: from where do you find yourself listening? Share your city or country in the comments below. It is perpetually fascinating to observe the extent to which tales of secrets and infidelity travel, My son heaped his plate with pancakes drenched in syrup, while I chose a more prudent omelet. We lingered over our meal, enveloped in the serene stillness of the morning. Once we finished breakfast, I inquired if there was anything he wished to do before I had to return to the bowling alley. He brightened at once. He mentioned that there's a mall in the vicinity. A GameStop resides within their midst. I have been searching for this game, and it seems they might have it in stock. I must admit, malls aren't really my cup of tea. They teem with people, buzz with sound, and consistently leave me with the impression that my wallet is lighter than it should be. Yet my son is not one to demand much. He's truly a good kid. Thus I acquiesced. We made our way to the mall, bustling with a throng of people, and directed our steps toward GameStop without hesitation. He discovered the game he had been searching for, a worn vintage game that was mysteriously priced at nearly $60. It was beyond my comprehension. Honestly, it's hard to believe. His excitement was palpable, and given that he rarely made requests, I couldn't help but let out a sigh as I reached for my wallet. I had purchased the game, and he flashed a grin in my direction, a sincere smile that rendered the entire experience worthwhile. We meandered through the mall for a few more hours, indulging in the art of window shopping and observing the ebb and flow of passers-by. Spending some quality time with him, just the two of us, was surprisingly pleasant. It brought back memories of his childhood, a time untouched by the turmoil of adolescence. If you find yourself captivated by the exhilarating twists and turns of this narrative, be sure to show your appreciation by liking the video. It truly enables us to deliver even more wild, authentic tales to you. That evening, as I returned to the bowling alley, a sense of contentment washed over me. Having found my rest, I had enjoyed precious moments with my son, and now I felt poised to deliver my finest performance on the bowling lane. Interestingly, my performance on the bowling lane improves when I find myself weary and under pressure. I slipped from second place to fifth. Though it was exasperating, I endeavored to maintain an optimistic outlook. One of the girls I bowl with back home, Jennifer, has indeed triumphed in the tournament. Her joy filled me with happiness. She has toiled diligently, and she has earned it. Following the awards ceremony, a group of us chose to venture out and revel in the occasion. They extended an invitation to me, and I assured them I would attend, provided I wasn't required to take the wheel. The bar we visited lay conveniently across the street from the hotel, an ideal location. Honestly, who feels like getting behind the wheel after a night of revelry? We placed our drink orders, and I chose to indulge just a bit. I wouldn't consider myself a heavy drinker, yet I find pleasure in savoring a glass of wine occasionally. However, let's just say that on this occasion I indulged a bit more than usual. Laughter filled the air as we engaged in conversation, reveling in the joy of Jennifer's triumph. The experience was quite enjoyable. It seems I finally found my way back to the hotel around 1 a.m. I found myself in a pleasantly tipsy state, accompanied by a sense of happiness and relaxation. At this juncture in the narrative, the tension is poised to escalate dramatically. Remain attentive, and let us discover what unfolds next. And be sure to subscribe so you won't miss the grand unveiling. I pushed the door to our room ajar, revealing my son peacefully slumbering in his bed, the glow of the TV casting a soft light around him. A smile crept across my face as I contemplated the serene expression he wore. After a brief interlude in the bathroom, I slipped into my pajamas and returned to the sanctuary of my bed. The room seemed to whirl, though in reality it remained still. As I settled my head upon the pillow, I drew the covers snugly around me and endeavored to immerse myself in the film flickering on the screen before me. Yet, for reasons unknown, slumber eluded me. As I lay there, my mind wandered through thoughts of the tournament, my son, and the broader tapestry of life itself. It must have been close to 3 a.m. when I noticed my son stirring in his bed. I glanced over at him, noticing the rhythmic rise and fall of his blanket. My initial thought was, is he? It's a thought that comes naturally to any parent, wouldn't you agree? Particularly when it comes to raising a teenage son. He crept forward with deliberate slowness, his movements careful and hushed, likely under the impression that I lay in slumber. As I continued to observe, my curiosity deepened. It may seem strange, yet it is undeniably the truth. A peculiar wave of arousal began to wash over me. As I pondered the situation, a sense of wrongness washed over me, yet I found myself unable to resist. A thrill coursed through me, aware of his actions mere feet from where I stood. It was an illicit sensation, a breach of norms, and it was utterly captivating. After approximately 10 minutes, I found myself experiencing sensations I hadn't encountered in quite some time. I found myself pondering, will he ever truly? Perhaps it was the wine, or perhaps it was the solitude that enveloped me, but I reached a breaking point. I impulsively asked, do you require any assistance with that? I contemplated that if he declined, I could merely feign a conversation in my slumber. To my astonishment, he agreed. In that moment, the realization struck me. What shall I do now? That solitary word, yes, lingered in the atmosphere, an unvarnished reality. It felt as though a switch had been activated, a barrier shattered. The uncertainties and the regrets dissolved, giving way to an uncanny feeling of destiny. I felt like a distant observer, witnessing my own existence unfold before me. A peculiar detachment enveloped me, casting a veil of unreality over my surroundings. It felt as though I was transcending my physical form, shedding the burdens of morality and the weight of societal expectations. I rose to my feet, a peculiar numbness coursing through my legs, and made my way to his bed. The room was enveloped in the gentle illumination of the television, projecting elongated, warped shadows that waltzed across the walls. I paused at the brink of his bed, my heart racing within my chest, a desperate rhythm echoing in the stillness. The warmth emanating from his body enveloped me, a tangible heat that beckoned me nearer. I paused, my fingers poised just above the blanket's edge, a quiet inquiry lingering in the atmosphere. With a measured grace, I extended my hand and gently drew the covers aside, unveiling him just enough to catch a glimpse. He reclined, his gaze expansive, a blend of astonishment and an elusive emotion, one that eluded my understanding. His hand remained encircled around himself, a quiet testament to the act I had unwittingly interrupted. I lingered for a moment, gazing at him, attempting to comprehend the unfolding reality. It felt as though I was gazing upon a stranger, an unfamiliar iteration of my son that I had never encountered before. It was an odd blend of the known and the unknown, a merging of the boundaries between mother and something entirely different. An undeniable force drew me closer, an overwhelming desire to reach out and connect with him. I extended my hand, a slight tremor coursing through my fingers, and delicately lifted his hand away. His skin radiated warmth, a subtle dampness that sent a delightful shiver coursing down my spine. I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper, "Allow me to assist you with that." I averted my eyes, following the contours of his form, the delicate bends and sharp edges that felt both known and intriguingly fresh. I could perceive the signs of his awakening, the delicate shifts that signified the passage from youth to maturity. I started to draw nearer, the atmosphere heavy with unvoiced longings and taboo musings. I observed my hand as it started to glide, my fingers carefully outlining slow, intentional designs along his form. It possessed a gentle quality, while simultaneously exuding a remarkable strength. The juxtaposition was exhilarating. I sensed my breath quickening, my body reacting to the illicit caress. I observed the emergence of a glistening droplet at the apex, a delicate pearl forming with anticipation. I leaned closer, my tongue flicking out to savor it, the briny flavor igniting a surge of energy within me. He flinched at the touch, a quiet gasp slipping from his mouth. "Would you like me to?" I murmured, my voice thick with longing. He nodded, his gaze locked onto mine, a wordless request shimmering in their depths. I bowed my head, my lips grazing his skin, the touch igniting a surge of warmth within me. I enveloped him with my lips, the flavor and sensation igniting a wave of delight that coursed through my entire being. As I shifted, I sensed his fingers weave into my hair, tenderly tugging. I whispered to him in a low, husky tone that if he dared to pull, he might just enjoy the outcome. He tugged gently, and a fresh wave of longing washed over me. I urged him to intensify his efforts, and he complied. I embraced him in response. The feelings surged within, an intoxicating blend of ecstasy and remorse, yearning and embarrassment. It felt as though I were ensnared in a tempest, buffeted and spun by powers that lay outside my grasp. I sensed his body tighten, a shiver coursing through him as he approached the peak of ecstasy. His release was a potent wave, a rush of warmth that enveloped my mouth, a flavor that danced between the realms of the known and the taboo. In the aftermath, a profound silence enveloped the room, leaving everyone momentarily speechless. We reclined together, our forms entwined, our breaths blending softly in the stillness of the room. The atmosphere was heavy with unvoiced feelings, laden with the gravity of our recent actions. This cannot become a regular occurrence. At last I spoke, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. It was clear to me that it was a fabrication, a frantic effort to hold on to a shred of normalcy. Yet the words resonated with a sense of emptiness, a hollow echo, reminiscent of a promise I understood I could never fulfill. We attempted to converse, to unravel the events that had transpired, yet language felt insufficient. The feelings were too intense, too intricate, too intertwined. And then, as if compelled by an unseen power, we were irresistibly pulled back together. The longing flares up, fierce and untamed. He requested it once more, and I discovered that I could not bring myself to decline. The guilt lingered, a persistent whisper in the recesses of my thoughts, yet it was eclipsed by an intoxicating wave of longing. "Oh my God," I mused, "he's prepared once more." I found myself questioning the wisdom of his early arrival, and soon my thoughts spiraled into a whirlwind of other possibilities. The boundaries that defined mother and son, that delineated right from wrong, became hazy, warped, and nearly vanished altogether. We found ourselves ensnared in a tempest of illicit longings, a choreography of fervor and remorse, a clandestine bond that would eternally unite us. In that moment, we found ourselves enveloped in a palpable silence, the atmosphere charged with the unsaid, burdened by the gravity of our actions. Deep within me, I recognized that what had transpired was fundamentally wrong, morally, ethically, in every conceivable manner. Yet the guilt, that weighty, oppressive sensation, was ephemeral. It would arrive in surges, overwhelming me before pulling back, leaving in its wake a peculiar, nearly disquieting feeling of expectation. I repeatedly reassured myself this must not occur once more. I endeavored to engage in a dialogue with my own thoughts, seeking a path to harmonize our actions with the truth of our connection. Yet, the reality was that the boundaries had become indistinct, perhaps even obliterated, and the deeper I delved into my thoughts, the clearer it became that I had no desire to wipe them away. It resembled a hidden truth, an exhilarating taboo, that throbbed just below the facade of our mundane existence. The guilt and shame lingered in the shadows, yet they were eclipsed by an intoxicating sense of power and desire that beckoned irresistibly. A chilling certainty settled within me, whispering that this was far from the end. It marked merely the onset of an experience unlike any other, an intricate web of emotions, a perilous journey, a captivating adventure. My mind wandered to various thoughts, alternative possibilities, and different avenues to delve into this emerging dynamic. Contemplating the future, I found myself pondering what the next occasion might unfold like. I envisioned fresh avenues for connection, uncharted paths for discovery, and daring methods to shatter every rule we had ever embraced. It was at that moment that the most mischievous thoughts began to surface. Concepts that ignited a thrill within me, concepts that sent shivers down my spine, concepts that prompted me to reevaluate all that I believed about my own identity. I began to ponder the possibility of embarking on this journey once more, yet in a different location. What if we ventured beyond the limits even more? What if we were to? Allow me to pose a question to you. What would you do if you found yourself in a situation such as this, ensnared in a tempest of illicit longings? What actions would you take? Would you take flight? Would you attempt to erase the memories? Or might you venture forth? We invite you to share your reflections in the comments section below. Remember to engage with Secrets and Cheating Stories by liking, sharing, and subscribing for more astonishing tales and genuine confessions.